The NBA is in a quote unquote crisis right now. Let's talk about the TV ratings and give you some ideas of ways to improve the game of basketball right now. So, for starters, the streaming numbers are all over the place, and it's mainly because none of these games are on major cable television networks. ESPN, for those of you who have grown up in most of suburbia, ESPN is not basic cable. You have to have some kind of cable package to get ESPN. The only way that a lot of households can get NBA games is a Saturday or Sunday, maybe Wednesday or Friday night NBA game on ABC. That's it. There's no TNT, there's no ESPN. And then on top of that, when you see a lot of these small market teams like the Washington Wizards, like the Milwaukee Bucks, like the Phoenix Suns, the Utah Jazz, they have their own individual streaming packages that you have to purchase to view their games and their games only. Now, NBA League Pass has the ability to watch almost any NBA game throughout the week. That's $25 a month on top of other subscription services that everyone else pays for, like Netflix, Hulu, HBO. The show goes on. Basically, what I'm saying is the viewership amongst the NBA casual has plummeted, and it's due to two things. One, streaming cost, like what I just talked about, and two, the fact that the league is so unbelievably digital now. You can view all of the important highlights on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok. It doesn't matter. The NBA posts them everywhere. Now, they are a different organization than the NFL or the MLB, where the markets really come through with the TV ratings. The NBA, it's a global game, okay? All over the world, people are watching, paying attention to, giving impressions to on social media. NBA highlight after highlight after highlight. For lack of better phrasing, the NBA is a bigger global game than American football. There are countries everywhere that have dedicated academies to playing basketball. There's no country in the world outside of America that has one of their primary sports being American football. Now, that being said, this is still a major issue for the NBA right now because the majority of their revenue comes from their TV deals. That is a big problem when you have these TV giant conglomerates that are demanding viewership and all they're seeing is views plummeting year in and year out. Really, this has been an issue upcoming since the 2020 finals. You know, they had this large break during COVID. They come back. The finals are in October. It's the lowest viewed NBA finals in history, despite having the greatest, second greatest, whatever you want to call it, player of all time competing for his fourth ring. Just crazy stuff. However, the NBA does a terrible, terrible job of two things. Number one, it's transitioning into new stars. They are milking the ever-living load out of LeBron, Steph Curry, and Kevin Durant. It's unbelievable what they've done to these stars. I think it's the basic common knowledge that Steph Curry, LeBron James, Kevin Durant, they're gonna get high viewership. But the fact that the NBA is basically relying on them to do that, it's not unacceptable, but it's improbable that this model is going to continue to tick up. As a matter of fact, we're looking at it right now, and even with these three great stars playing amazing at the end of their careers, the NBA viewership is still not there in these primetime games with them. The most viewed game of the season, I think, so far has been Klay Thompson's return to the Golden State Warriors, which in most NBA seasons is nowhere near the biggest storyline. I don't think it's the biggest storyline this season. Regardless, with all that being said, the second thing that the NBA has been terrible about is spacing these games out to compete with a country that is invested in other sports. It baffles me over and over and over again that we see a football championship weekend in college football, and we have 8 NBA games on the day that we have the SEC championship, the ACC championship. What in the absolute hell is the league thinking by doing that? The second thing I want to talk about is games on Sundays during the NFL regular season, especially during the day when there's 8 NFL games to watch. The majority of your sports fans are sports casuals. They want to watch big nationally televised games. They do not want to watch the Boston Celtics clobber the Indiana Pacers at 1 p.m. Eastern time. That's when football's going on. So the fact that the NBA continues to make mistakes like scheduling a bunch of games on Sunday and then Monday during the NFL season, and then we're here on Wednesday, December 18th, and there are no NBA games being played, makes zero sense to me. I get that the league has to space out these games to give players proper rest, but make that around the Sundays and Mondays of NFL. Make that around the big Saturday college football weekends. I digress. We're going to move on. That's one of my pet peeves with the NBA right now. And I'm a guy, I wouldn't call myself an NBA super fan. Like, I'm not here to tell you about, Andre Drummond and his rebound chances on Tuesday night versus the Clippers on the road and the statistics behind that. But I would view myself as a guy who constantly pays attention to the league, who's constantly watching games, highlights, social media. I've already been to, I think, 6 Pelicans games this year. I'm not even a Pelicans fan, but I'm going to these games because I care about the league. I love how players play the game right now. But there are just so many complaints from the general fan that I think they're worth looking into. So the last thing I want to talk about with the issues in the NBA right now is the evolution of the three-point shot. Analytics coming into the NBA has been a good thing for a lot of teams and a lot of players, but for the casual NBA fan who doesn't want to watch a lot of three-point shooting, it's not a good look. And I'm a guy who believes that the three-point shot is a skill expression. It's something that needs to happen in the NBA, and I know that the NBA three-point shooting is the better shot. When you look at what the league averages for three-point shooting and two-point shooting, I think it's around 45-46% for two-point shots and around 34-35% for three-point shots. If you take 50 of those shots, 2 points and then 3 points, you would score 52 points if you're shooting threes and 48 points, I believe, if you're shooting twos. So statistically speaking, it is a better shot to take 3 after 3 after 3. But that's not what fans want to watch, especially guys that grew up playing casual basketball, where you had to run classic plays, you had to shoot mid-range jumpers, and that's something that they relate to. I think that watching the game now, it's entertaining to me because I'm in love with the defense on space. I like the dynamic of having a bunch of young athletic wing players out there to play defense. It's a really cool concept. I'm kind of glad that we're moving away from the traditional big because I don't think that's that big of a skill expression. Now, for those of you who want to start, taping me over with Tim Duncan or Hakeem Olajuwon highlight reels, I get it. But I think the three-point shot is a more entertaining skill expression than the classic post game. That's just my personal opinion. I think that the league should look into how to slow down the growth of the three-point shot, though, because the fans are telling you they don't like it, even if the narrative doesn't actually fit the realism of the game. And that's the last thing I want to get into. When you turn on Inside the NBA, when you turn on First Take or the ESPN NBA Live or NBA Now show that they have right before games, all you really see are coaches and former players and analysts criticizing two things. One, the players themselves as people, and two, their ability to play what they define as the game of basketball on the floor. Now, I'm absolutely stealing this take from Colin Cowherd's show. They were talking about it yesterday. If you want, go to YouTube, check out that clip. I completely agree, though. When you have these well-respected legends of the game coming out and saying, well, these guys are soft, these guys don't play real basketball, this isn't what I grew up playing, and all this other stuff, you get a lot of people who grew up watching those guys who buy into said narrative, and it re-emphasizes the negativity surrounding the league today. I think a lot of the narratives in the media right now are focused on the problems with these superstars. They're getting paid tens of millions of dollars, like Jaylen Brown signing a $300 million contract. The players, the former players and coaches that are criticizing this game, I don't have a critique about them personally. All I know is they're doing harm to the game that they say they love so much. That's my personal opinion. I have never played in the NBA. I'm well aware of that. But to sit here and say that Charles Barkley saying that the Houston Rockets in the semifinals of the NBA Cup don't know how to play basketball, that doesn't help anybody become a fan of the league. Now, it's fine for him to issue a criticism, but is it fine for him to issue a criticism over and over and over again, like beating a dead horse over the league that helps pay his contract at TNT and then next year at ESPN? If it wasn't for the NBA, Charles Barkley would not have an analyst job. And this is coming from somebody that's from Trussville, Alabama, a 10-minute drive from Leeds. I am a massive Charles Barkley fan. I'm a fan of what he does in the community. I'm a fan of what he's done for the game of basketball as a whole. And I'm really, really stealing this take from from Colin Cowherd's show. I'm not going to sit here and act like this is my own, but I am reiterating it because of its importance. When you have all of these experts like a Stephen A. Smith, like a Lou Williams on the FanDuel app, criticizing players and the game and where it's going, I think we're leading to major, major issues with the relationship between the media and the NBA. The media and the NBA, just like the NFL, have always had a negative relationship between each other, but now it's getting greater than ever. And so I think there has to be some kind of merger there. So now let's get into my solutions for how the NBA can fix these issues that they have. First off, most importantly, you have to create a streamlined way to watch all of these games. Not watch every single one of them. I'm talking about if I'm a Wizards fan, I shouldn't have to pay $30 a month or whatever it is to watch Wizards games and Wizards games only. I think the NBA League Pass for $9.99 a month maybe would be reasonable and would increase viewership in these local market games. I just think that a lot of ownership right now are trying to milk the cow of revenue because they're having to pay these massive salary caps. They want more money. They want to become a more profitable league. I get it, but the league will die before it fully expands into the global setting if you kill off the American fan base too quickly. So, number one, finding a way to streamline streaming all of these games. Number two, create more NBA Cup type events. I personally loved the NBA Cup. You could sit there and watch two things. One, the players played a little harder in these NBA Cup games. Coaches played the starters more minutes. It was really entertaining to watch, especially I think it was in the San Antonio Spurs game. They're already up by 8 or 9 points, and they have the victory within the last couple of minutes. And Chris Paul is pushing the floor and continuing to get his team to score more points because that's how the differential in the NBA Cup is decided. It's about points forwarded when you have a tiebreaker situation. So love that energy right there. I think creating more of these events throughout the season and maybe making this like a side tournament along with the playoffs would be interesting. But All I'm saying is that's a great environment, and the NBA should try to replicate that energy throughout the entire season. The second thing I want to talk about to pair with that, a great thing to do, make these tickets for NBA Cup games significantly cheaper and figure out a way to get secondhand ticket sales out of the NBA right now. I think that ticket sales have gone through the roof when you look at second-party platforms or third-party platforms like TickPick, SeatGeek, Vivid Seats. All of these tickets have been bought for much cheaper and then resold at a far higher rate. I think it's ridiculous. If the NBA could figure out how to get cheap tickets in the hands of real fans, it would be absolutely amazing to watch. Week in and week out, when you have a packed arena for a team that's potentially a losing one, like the New Orleans Pelicans. They are god-awful this year, but I bet you would sell more tickets to an NBA Cup game if they had a chance to advance in the NBA Cup regardless of their record. So giving cheap tickets to fans for these Cup games would be a great idea. There's nothing better than watching a television or an NBA game on television with an electric atmosphere surrounding them. That being said, that's my solution there to increase some of the local energy around these NBA teams. Next, you gotta market the new line of stars. I think it's too late to transition from LeBron to Anthony Davis or Kat or Jokic or Joel Embiid. These guys are either in the middle of their primes or already on the back half of their primes. To look at guys like Anthony Edwards, who the NBA has really leaned on in marketing, I think they need to potentially lean on him more. But other guys like Victor Wembanyama, SGA, John Morant, even with all of the controversy behind John Morant, I think the NBA should still be marketing him. I think he is a great guy that gets people going on social media, has people maybe wanting to watch ESPN games. I think he's a draw, not a guy who pushes fans away. Next, maybe get behind Tatum and Giannis. They kind of fall into the AD, Kat, Jokic category of maybe a little bit too old. But Tatum, I think, is only 26, 27 years old. So he's still a very marketable star. Same with LaMelo Ball. I think those young stars are going to be the transitionary piece into what I view as an Anthony Edwards, Victor Wembanyama dominated NBA over the next 10 seasons. That being said, let's talk about the thing that I think is probably the most important for the NBA to improve its fan interest and TV ratings. Schedule these games situationally. Stop putting 9 games on an NFL Sunday. It's ridiculous. I am an NBA fan. I have 3 NBA jerseys behind me. I have like 5 more in the closet. I go to a ton of NBA games. I have 2 NBA books right here. I talk basketball all of the time, but I am also a football fan. I have a fantasy football team. All of my friends like NFL football. I'm going to watch NFL football on Sunday. I can't do both. I mean, technically, I could get 8 TVs and put them all around me and have like 8 different NBA games in the red zone, but I'm just a 24-year-old or 25-year-old young man. I don't, one, have the resources for that to afford not only 8 TVs, but also 2 different streaming packages at the same time and run them simultaneously. And 2, I have a lot of things going on Sundays. And I'm not just talking about for me personally. I love the league. I think they do a great job trying to increase fan engagement. This is not necessarily a gripe from me. This is a gripe from people that I've seen on social media and in real life. People have jobs that they work during the day on Sundays. People have responsibilities over the weekend. To put these games in the middle of the day, especially with a massive league like the NFL running a Sunday, it's just a non-compete for me. So put a bunch of games on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday night. Have this be like a family dinner type environment, and maybe you can increase your viewership among common American households, both urban, suburban, rural. It doesn't matter. I don't think that this is necessarily an economic thing. This has to do with connectivity within the situations around society. And when you put a bunch of games on with the league that directly competes for your viewers, with a league that is doing better than you in competing for those viewers, guess what? You're gonna lose. So probably the number one fix, in my opinion, may not even be streamlined NBA packages. It might just be putting your nationally televised games in spots where people want to view them nationally. All that being said, I don't think the NBA is in that big of trouble, but these TV ratings are slightly alarming. I think this has to do with a bunch of people cutting the cord, people being able to watch a lot of this on social media. If you figured out how to monetize social media or maybe live stream on TikTok or Instagram or whatever, maybe that will be a better solution. But right now, those are my issues for the NBA, and those are my potential solutions. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.